Hello and welcome inside the lobby of the Petersen Events Center here. I am Kevin Wheeler, joined by my co-host Jesse Irwin, bringing you a live special presentation here, Pitt Basketball Season Preview Special here on WPTS Radio. One of the first times we've ever done this on WPTS Radio. Jesse, it's great to be here with you today.
This is unbelievable. I mean, you consider how far we've come and get to this point and be sitting here in the Pitt lobby. I mean, this view is awesome, and we're going to have people gathering around here. We're going to have players. This is pretty much all you could ask for, Ken.
Yeah, absolutely, and you alluded to it there a moment ago. The players will be joining us pretty shortly here at 6:15. We're scheduled to speak with our guests, Deron Johnson and Josh Newkirk, obviously players on the Pitt basketball team here. And at 6:30, we're supposed to be joined by Chris Jones, James Robinson, and Mike Young. So a great slate of players and a great slate of guests here for us to open this preview special here, Jesse. So getting right into it now. Obviously, this is a pretty timely special now that Friday is going to be our first WPTS basketball broadcast. Friday, the Panthers take on Niagara at 7 p.m. here at the Pete. Thoughts on the game coming up this weekend and just college basketball opening up this season? You know, it's my favorite time of year. I know it's probably yours too.
Oh, I love it. And this is the chance for all these guys who might not have gotten their fair shot at really showing what they're made of. This is where they can shine. And I think that's pretty much the theme with this Pitt team overall. I think it's going to be a lot of maturing this year with Josh Newkirk, the guard who everybody loved toward the end of the season. He performed so well in the ACC tournament, and he's going to come out here. We're going to get to see him play alongside James Robinson and see how those two correspond with one another. You've got Deron Johnson, who went out on January 11th for an ACL injury, and he's back, and he is ready to shoot. Everybody knows him as a shooter, and he knows himself as a shooter, and we'll talk to him a little more about that at 6:15. Then Joseph Uchebo, the Nigerian center, he was recruited by Kentucky, NC State, and several other big schools, but he ended up, after a couple years in JUCO, he ends up here at Pitt, and this is his time to shine. He's going to be the center this year for the Panthers, and he's going to play an integral part in the Panthers' presence in the paint. And you've got Chris Jones, who's going to be starting his first game ever, most likely this Friday. And Chris, who went out with a thumb injury last year, is going to have to really step it up to replace Lamar Patterson, who went to the NBA, drafted by the Atlanta Hawks, was a potential ACC Player of the Year, did not receive the award, definitely led this Pitt team into the NCAA tournament, and it's going to be some big shoes to fill for Chris. And then finally, Mike Young, who's going to be the power forward center who everyone's going to have their eyes on. He's going to be producing a lot of the Panthers' points, and it's going to be up to him to see how the Panthers fare when they get into serious ACC play.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you, Jesse, and that's just something that I want to hash out a little bit as we open this little intro segment here. It is Lamar Patterson and the void that these Panthers are going to have to fill with him. This is a guy that, you know, Jamie Dixon and Pitt fans all around could rely on to make that big shot when the time came down to it. You know, I don't know if this team has that right now, and if they do, we're going to have to see that guy step up. Right now, as far as the exhibition games go, it's been Mike Young. This guy in the first two exhibition games goes 21-11 and 24-7 respectively. So this guy is stepping up and scoring big points compared to what he did last year. Do you think Mike Young is the guy that's going to step in for Lamar, or do you think it's going to be somebody else?
Well, I think most of the eyes are on Mike Young, but I don't think he can do it alone. And I think that's where guys like Josh Newkirk and James Robinson and Deron Johnson, all of these guys are going to play a huge role in replacing what Lamar Patterson provided on the floor. He was an assist leader, he was a points leader, he grabbed rebounds, he did so many parts, he played so many parts in this Pitt offense. It's going to be tough to replace him, but I think just like the Pitt football team replaced Darren Donald, it's going to be a group effort, and it's going to take a lot of working together in team chemistry to make up for what they lost in Lamar Patterson.
So last season, in 2013-2014, the Panthers came out and started extremely strong. A lot of optimism here in Panther country. Last season, they started 16-1 heading into the Syracuse game earlier on in the ACC schedule. They fall off after the Syracuse loss, however. They go 7-7 in their last 14. But once again, the Panthers pick it up at the end of the season, and they perform well in the ACC tournament. So, Jesse, what do you expect from this Pitt Panther basketball team this year? Obviously, the weak non-conference schedule is something that helps them jump out to that big stretch there at the beginning of last year. Will it happen again this year? What are we expecting from this team?
Well, we talked about maturing with this team, and I think that's why these quote-unquote cupcake team games play such a big part in how the Panthers fare when it comes to ACC play. It's their chance to really get on a roll, really find their groove. And it could go either way with this team. I think there's a lot of potential in this team, but at the same time, who's going to have the confidence to step up when it matters? And in those ACC games, it's going to matter. And you've got guys like James Robinson, Josh Newkirk, Deron Johnson, whoever you want to throw out there, they could all do that, but are they going to? That's the real question. And I think if you look at this Panthers team, they're picked to finish 6th in the ACC by ACC members, media members. It could go either way. They could finish 3rd, they could finish 9th, but I think it's going to come down to how aggressive and how determined Jamie Dixon's roster is.
Yeah, and you kind of took my next point away from me there. Pitt, by ACC media members, is picked to finish 6th. Ahead of them, obviously, Duke, with the most first-place votes, is picked to win the conference, followed by the North Carolina Tar Heels, Louisville Cardinals, Virginia Cavaliers, Syracuse Orange, and then followed by the Pitt Panthers coming in at 6th. So, what are your expectations for the ACC as a whole? Stepping aside from Pitt just quickly for a second, what do you think about these 5 teams that are sitting above Pitt? Do you think that Pitt has a chance to really contend with these guys and really make their presence known in the ACC?
Well, I look at it as a whole, and I think that Pitt, after a year in the ACC, is starting to really find their place amongst these teams. Obviously, UNC, Louisville, UVA, Syracuse, those are great teams to be paired with and be next to, but you look at the games like the Syracuse game. I mean, of course, Tyler Ennis had a freak shot, and of course, there were some instances where Pitt could have made shots that they didn't. But it's gonna come down to how determined this Pitt team is and how aggressive they are when they face the top teams in the ACC. So when they're going up against Duke, UNC, Louisville, UVA, teams that really provided some serious problems last year, it's going to be interesting to see how they approach it in reference to last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And, talking about the first 2 exhibition games here that have happened over the last couple of weeks here, Jesse, the exhibition games, I noticed with the offense that with Lamar out, this team has become more of a complete team offense. In the first 2 exhibition games, sure, you can make what you want of it. 2 exhibition games, what can you really take away? But what I'm looking at is the fact that their offense consists of a lot of off-the-ball screens, a lot of movement down low, a lot of hustle on the offensive boards. And, it's going to be a team effort for this team to succeed offensively and defensively, as Coach Dixon has stressed earlier on this season.
Well, who knows how a team effort's going to fare out in the ACC, right? The ACC is known as a league where, you're going to have your role players, but at the end of the day, you're going to know who your guy is who's going to take that shot. So we'll ask these guys when they come on here, but I'm going to be curious to see who's going to be the guy to step up the way that Lamar Patterson did. He was obviously the guy you wanted the ball, who you wanted to give the ball at the end of the game, but who's it going to be this year? And when it comes to playing these tough teams, I think that's a question that you're going to need an answer to pretty early on, but you're going to need to make sure that you know that those role players are willing to be in that position if needed.
Yeah, speaking of role players, Joe Chebo is a guy who's played limited basketball over the last few years. Jamel Artis came off the bench last year, and you have Chris Jones, who also came off the bench last year. Those are 3 guys that may be thrust into a starting role here early on. They were the starting lineup for both exhibition games. So what do you think of that? Do you think the starters are going to shuffle around a little bit? I'm sure they will, given the fact that Cam Wright is going to be out for a couple more weeks with a foot injury.
Yeah, well, again, if you have your senior leader out, it's going to call for the younger guys to really step it up and show that they're able to mature when needed. And is this a realistic expectation for the Panthers? I pose that question to you. I think that the Panthers could go either way, and that's a question that's kind of asked every year. If you look at the past couple of years, it's been, it could have gone either way. So I'm going to pose that question to you, Kevin. Do you think that the Panthers being able to hold up to that 6th in the ACC thing, do you think that's a realistic expectation to hold of Jamie Dixon's team?
Well, the thing is I was reading something the other day with Jay Billis and Seth Greenberg. They had a conference call, and both of them were asked, what do you think about the ACC this year? And they consider it as being one of the deepest conferences in the nation, top to bottom. And that's something that worries me as a Pitt fan, because it shows you that on any given night, any team in the ACC could come into the Petersen Events Center anywhere, and they could really win games. And you could go from Florida State to Clemson to anybody. This conference is going to be extremely difficult to come out of. And I think, picking Pitt at 6 is an interesting choice. I think it's probably where they should fall, given the fact that, the big names that they have above them. You have Duke, obviously the great recruiting classes coming in from them, and then the North Carolina Tar Heels, getting some good players back from them. Louisville, Rick Pitino, his first year in the ACC. Tony Bennett and the Cavaliers, ACC champions last year, coming into this year, and then Syracuse and Jim Boeheim. That's probably where the Panthers would stack up to me. So I think it's definitely realistic for the Panthers to fall around 6th, but by no means am I saying that they couldn't go higher, and they could go lower too. Just like you said, it's all about the maturation process, and it's all about what this team does and how hard it works throughout the season.
And I think that's something you have to get used to. When you're playing in a conference like the ACC, of course you're going to get great recruiting, but at the same time you're also going to have the other schools recruiting just as well. And especially when you're in a conference with some of the most storied programs in basketball history, you're going to face some really tough freshmen and some really, really good NBA prospects. And it's going to come down to which guys you're going to have on there representing you when you go up against those tough guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And, in a few minutes here, Jesse, we're going to be bringing on a couple guys. We're going to be bringing on Deron Johnson and Josh Newkirk in just a minute. But until then, Jesse, something I got to ask you is, at this point, we got to be excited about Deron and Josh coming on the show. After the break, we're going to bring those guys on. So what are your thoughts on Deron and Josh? Deron is a guy that, coming out of the ACL injury, it's going to be interesting to see what he does this year.
Yeah, and unfortunately he's actually not going to be able to join us. He had to leave, but we'll still get the other four guys. But I think Deron is going to really go out. He's going to go out firing. And we talk about his dribble drive and how he's been working on that. And we don't know if that's to become a bit more all-around player, or if that's to shy away from taking the shots that he was going to take otherwise. He's a guy who's known as someone who doesn't see a shot he doesn't like. And I've said that every time I've said his name. And I think it's just important to remember that this is a guy that you're going to want to let him shoot, because if he hits that first shot, as we saw in that Maryland game last year, he's going to go out firing, and if he's hitting, he's going to keep going.
Yeah, and it's a good thing we did bring up Deron, and it's unfortunate he's not going to be able to join us. These guys are student athletes. They have other lives as well, just like the rest of us.
Absolutely.
And we just got word from Greg Hotchkiss, the sports information director for basketball, that Deron will not be able to join us, but we will still have Chris Jones, Josh Newkirk, James Robinson, and Mike Young on the program here live. So we'll be waiting for them. But until then, just finishing up the Deron point, this is a guy that, as a fan, was one of my favorite players coming in freshman year. This guy was electric. He was a spark plug off the bench for these Panthers, and it was really unfortunate to see him go down with such a tough injury last year. I'm interested to see what he can do coming into this season. Coming off that ACL injury, we know how tender that knee is going to be, but hopefully he can be the Deron of old, and hopefully be even better now the fact that he's been working on his dribble drive game as well.
And one of the things that hits me as soon as I think of his injury, I think of what happened after that injury. They lost the energy on the bench that he provided. And Jamie Dixon's reference to that a lot of times. He provided such charisma and just personality to that bench that he played a huge part in how motivated this team was. And so whenever Deron Johnson went down, we were looking for that player that all Pitt fans were loving. And I think Josh Newkirk filled that role very well. Josh Newkirk was a guy who is, he's pretty much everybody what you could ask for in a point guard. He's very aggressive. He's not always as consistent as James Robinson is, and I think that's where they differ, but he's fun to watch. He's a guy, he can soar. I don't know if you've seen that high school video of him jumping up and slamming.
Hey, I've seen it in person when I covered the ACC tournament last year. I saw this guy take 2 dribbles down the baseline, go up and challenge the trees down low, try to throw it down one-handed in that game, and I was extremely impressed with that. So, but right now, Jesse, but before we get into our next segment, I think what we're going to do is we're going to pitch it to a break here. Thank you so much for joining us here on our Pitt Basketball season preview special here at WPTS Radio. And welcome back inside the lobby of the Petersen Events Center here. I am Kevin Wheeler, joined by my co-host Jesse Irwin, bringing you special programming here tonight on WPTS Radio. This is our Pitt Basketball season preview special here. And Jesse, our guests are a little bit late, which is completely fine. But right now we're going to get in a little talk about the schedule for this Pitt basketball team. So Jesse, how about you start us off here?
Yeah, well, we look at it, and Pitt's going to open up against Niagara this Friday, and we'll expand on that game a little bit more, but then they're going to head to Hawaii, where they will take on
to the Maui tournament.
The Maui tournament.
Invitational.
You're not going there, are you?
I wish I was going there. I'm not going there, unfortunately.
Okay, yeah. A lot of good stuff in Hawaii. They're going to play in the Maui Invitational that's sponsored by EA Sports. Then they're going to come back, and on a Tuesday night, they're going to play in the ACC Big Ten Challenge at Assembly Hall. They're going to take on Indiana. That's going to be a fun one. That'll be on ESPN2 starting at 7 p.m., so definitely keep an eye out for all those games. After that, they'll take on Duquesne in the City game, and then they're going to get started with their 5 non-conference games: St. Bonaventure, Manhattan, Oakland, Holy Cross, and Florida Gulf Coast, the team that did so well in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, Dunk City did so well in the tournament the other year. And then they enter the ACC. Which of these ACC games, they started out NC State, Boston College, Clemson, Florida State. Are there 3 games, if you were to pick those out, which 3 would stand out to you most as being the most significant in this season for the Panthers?
Out of the whole ACC schedule you're talking about?
Yes, out of the whole ACC
schedule. Well, I mean, at Duke is probably going to be a huge one. That's going to be a nationally televised game on a Monday night. I mean, down there in the Cameron Crazies, Cameron Indoor Stadium, the Panthers never played there, so there's definitely going to be some novelty for them going down to Duke. Obviously, it's going to be an amazing atmosphere. We'll see if WPTS is going to be able to go down there. We'll see how that goes. But, I think that's probably the one that you're going to have to highlight once you look at it. And then after that Duke game, they come back home and they take on Louisville in also a nationally televised game on a Saturday afternoon. So that's also going to be good. Pitino coming in, bringing his Cardinals into the Petersen Events Center, a place where it's very tough to win, as it's been well documented. So those games back-to-back, I think right in the heart of the ACC schedule, are going to really tell us what this Panther team is made of.
And that's a fun rivalry to renew. I think that Big East rivalry they had with a lot of those teams, but especially Louisville, I think that's going to be a blast. Just renewing that, seeing Pitino back here, 2 of the greatest coaches in college basketball. We're honored to have one of them, but the ACC is full of them. Rich Pitino is definitely adding to that collection.
Yeah, and before we even get into the ACC, this team's going to get tested in Maui. There's some great teams down there in this Maui tournament. They get Chaminade in the first round, but they get San Diego State, and that's a team that has been on the national radar for a couple of years now. Obviously the alma mater of Kawhi Leonard, one of the best NBA players right now.
The biggest hands of any player I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and the guy's unbelievable. And, it just speaks to the program that San Diego State is beginning to form. So I think that game is really a big test for the Panthers as well. Is there another game in the non-conference that you look at as going to be a tough test here for the Panthers?
As far as a tough test goes, I just love the Manhattan game. It's not even about a tough test necessarily, but that connection with Slice and Manhattan and that whole connection, I love it, and it's hard not to. And with the new assistant coach coming in, it's going to be fun to get that going. And these non-conference games, they seem insignificant, and a lot of times they are. But I think for a Panther team that, again, we go back to the maturing process and how young they are, these are going to be significant games because we're going to find out which players are confident in their ability and which of them are willing to go out there and really put themselves on the line to defend the Panthers' record. And it's going to tell us a lot about the remainder of the season.
Yeah, and another thing that we should probably bring up here, Jesse, is the fact that the Panthers once again have a fairly weak non-conference schedule. Sure, they get into a preseason tournament. Finally, they get into a decent preseason tournament here. I know they haven't in my first couple of years here. And then they also get a pretty good ACC Big Ten draw out of Indiana, going to Indiana. That could be a game that, if they were to win, could bode well for them down the line in terms of NCAA tournament implications.
Yeah, it's a lot of national attention, and I think it is rightfully deserved, but it's also putting the Panthers on the spot. I think that's a situation where you want to make the most of that, especially not just as a team, but as a program and as an athletic program. I think when you're playing in the ACC Big Ten Challenge and you're playing in the Maui tournament, all these sponsored tournaments, all these ESPN-affiliated games, I mean, these are all what create a storied program. It's because when they get that national attention and they get on that national stage and they're able to succeed on that national stage, that's what separates you from the teams that get on there every 5 years. And that's what will give you more and more. And it's the same way with recruiting. The better you play, the better recruits you have. It's all chain reactions in college basketball, and this is Panthers' chance this year to really step it up, especially with the recruits coming in, to really get the ball rolling as far as ACC competition goes and how they fare in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Yeah, and speaking of new faces here on this Panther team, we can go into that as well here. So obviously Joe Uchebo is a guy who's leaped himself into the starting lineup here early on, at least through the first couple exhibition games, and this is a guy that didn't play very much last year. Obviously was overshadowed by Talib Zana, who is trying to find his way in the NBA Development League and everything like that. And, another couple guys that you got Deron Johnson coming back. You got Ryan Luther, a true freshman. And then, going further down the list of transfer from Vanderbilt, you got Sheldon Jeter, a guy that's very versatile, a guy that's supposed to fit into Jamie Dixon's system pretty well. And then another guy, quickly is Cam Johnson, a 6'7" freshman with a really pretty three ball, a guy that I really enjoyed watching in the exhibition game. So what do you think these new guys offer this Panther team?
Well, I immediately look at Sheldon Jeter. Sheldon Jeter was in the slam dunk contest that Pitt had a couple weeks ago, and he can throw the ball down. For a Vanderbilt guy, he's coming into Pittsburgh, he can really, really dunk it. So he'll be a great asset as far as attacking the basket. He's not going to be afraid to, and he's got a shot on him as well. So he'll be able to work with those rookies. They're all new faces, but they're all going to be working together to become more familiar with the guys who were there, Coach Dixon's system. It all just comes down to team chemistry, and that's going to be a key part in how the Panthers play this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, quickly, before we take our second break of this show here, James Robinson, a guy that we have to talk about. In the absence of Lamar Patterson, this guy's going to have to step in and really be a leader for this team. So before we bring these new guys on, you know, obviously our guests have finally arrived, so it's good to see these guys here and ready to go. But before we take that break, you just speak a minute about J-Rob.
Well, J-Rob is Mr. Consistent in high school. I mean, he's a guy that you can rely on. His assist-to-turnover ratio, again, he's finished third in the country, and that was for a reason. It was because he was the most reliable point guard Pitt could have had last year, and it helped Pitt a lot with getting the ball around, spreading the floor, and it resulted in a lot of great plays for the Panthers.
All right, Jesse, so in order to get our guests set up here, we're going to have to pitch it back to the studio. And for a quick break, you're listening to your Pitt Basketball season preview special here from the Pitt lobby on WPTS Radio. And welcome back inside the lobby of the Petersen Events Center here for our special Pitt Basketball season preview. We are joined now by Pitt basketball players Michael Young and Chris Jones. Guys, first of all, just want to open it up and say how you guys doing. I know you guys just practiced and there was a media opportunity and everything like that. It's really a pleasure for you guys to be here with us today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm doing good. We just had a productive practice. Just ready to take it down for the night after this.
Chris, your impersonation of Coach Dixon, that was spot on.
Thank you.
Duran's was pretty good too, but I had to say that because that was pretty good.
Yeah, we had a lot of practice, so.
Very nice. Well, I just want to start out. I'm going to pose a question at Mike. I mean, which position do you enjoy playing more? Is center or power forward? And is there a player you try to emulate when you're going after it?
It really doesn't matter. I mean, power forward or center. I mean, I'm going to just go out and play my game and do what I do regardless of where I'm out in the court. So, and I really don't have a player that I emulate. I mean, I have a few players like LeBron, Carmelo, but I really don't have a player that I look at and be like, all right, I want to play like him or I'm going to use his moves. I feel like I'm my own player.
Yeah.
But 4 or 5, it doesn't matter.
So you're going out, and regardless of what Coach Dixon tells you, if you're playing the 4 or the 5, you're playing the exact same way.
Yeah, exact same way. I mean, some of the plays, the 4 and the 5 do different things, but for the most part, I have the same mindset and the same goal in mind, just to go out and get a win and do what I do.
Yeah, Mike, the first 2 exhibition games coming out, big scoring production from you in both games, 21 and 11 in one and then 24 and 7 in the other. How do you feel about filling the scoring void that, Lamar really left open for this team to fill for this year? It seems like you're the guy that's going to step in and fill that void. How do you feel about that?
I mean, a lot of people talked about the scoring void that's been left by those guys and talking about who's going to step up and who's going to take leadership of the scoring. And with all the hard work I put in, I just felt like it was me ever since the season ended last year. And I knew that I would be able to come in this year and, pretty much, take the responsibility for the offense and create a lot of things for my teammates. And I was pretty excited and pretty confident to do that.
I'm going to swing it over to Chris. Chris, as far as playing that 3 position, what did you learn from Lamar? I mean, Lamar obviously played the position pretty well. What do you take from his game, and what did he teach you? So coming into this year when you're potentially starting, what are you going to do?
I learned a lot from watching Lamar last year, also practicing against him every day. So, just trying to do all the things that he did. He did everything well on the court. I mean, he defended pretty well, rebounded the ball, passed the ball, scored the ball. So just trying to do a little bit of everything on the court is what I'm looking to do this year.
To follow up with that, obviously you're stepping into a role now that it's a little bit unfamiliar for you, at least being here at Pitt. You're stepping into that role, potentially starting for this team down the stretch here. So how do you feel about earning a starting role here throughout the preseason and exhibition games going into the first game on Friday?
It feels good. I definitely put in a lot of hard work this off season, so it feels good to be given this opportunity. I'm just gonna try and make the most of it.
All right, so I'm gonna pose this to both of you. See what you guys say. There's 5 seconds left in the ACC championship, and you guys are down. Who's taking that shot?
Me.
I think that's the reading Mike's face here. I think that's a pretty confident answer.
You agree with that, Chris?
Nah, I'm gonna shoot it.
I feel like all of them might say that they're going to shoot it here, Jesse.
We'll ask these guys.
I think if it was asked to me, I'd say I would shoot it too. So.
No. You just got to swing it. You just got
to chill. You just got to pass.
Swing it, guys.
I'm definitely swinging it. I don't know.
Okay, guys. So something that I wanted to address to all of you guys, and I'll ask James and Josh after this as well when they come on. Coach had some pretty harsh words in the locker room after the Philly game. He was really stressing the defensive side of the ball, really extended the conversation with you guys afterwards. Just curious, what was said in that conversation? If you don't want to disclose, then that's fine. I'm just curious to see what was going on inside the locker room at that point.
Well, I'm not going to speak on what he said or use any of the words that he used, but just know that defense is one of the things that we've been focusing on and putting a lot of emphasis on. Those first 2 exhibition games are terrible displays of defense. We should have, been able to shut those guys down, and I think Philly shot 60% in the second half or something like that. So to go out and just not play like the team that we are was pretty embarrassing, and let's just say he wasn't happy about it.
Did you expect them to only play 6 guys the whole game?
Yeah, we knew that they would only play 5 or 6 guys. They did it in their previous game, so we knew it was coming.
Okay. In relation to that question, Chris, I'll swing it over to you now. In the press conference after the game, a question was asked to Jamie, about you and about Duran and how well you guys shot the ball from 3. And I noticed you're shooting the ball pretty well here in the first couple exhibition games. One thing he said after that, though, is that Derek Johnson, the electric guard from Philadelphia, got his in that game. He scored 34 points, 32, something like that. So what is your reflection on your defensive performance individually in that game against him?
Individually, I feel as though I didn't really play that good of defense, and I wasn't in the spots where I needed to be. But I think we got that corrected, and we're just looking forward to Friday. Looking forward to playing better.
And what are the kind of steps that you're going to have to take here for all of you, really? I'll pose this to both of you guys right now. Individually, how do you take care of that defensive effort? How do you make sure that you get that on a nightly basis?
A lot of it was just really early. It's just early in the year. A lot of it was just lack of communication on the court, and I think through watching film and going over the different things in practice, we'll have it together in no time.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Chris said, I think a lot of it was just just not being in the right spot. So also you got to think about it. Exhibition game, coach uses the opportunity to play a lot of guys, and when the season starts, he's going to really, break down the minutes as far as giving guys that that deserve the minutes, the amount of minutes that they should get, and with that comes chemistry and trust in people, and then you build trust defensively in certain people. If I'm playing with Chris and we're both out there on the court, if I know that in 2 minutes he's going to come out, then I'm going to come out, then I'm going to be in with a whole new 5. It's kind of hard to actually build chemistry, but if you got a core 5 or a core 7, then it's easy to build trust and chemistry with those guys defensively.
Just to wrap it up on an off the court note, what did you guys do in the off season? Did you focus on a lot of basketball? Did you take the time off to do other things? How did you spend your off season?
Basketball. Me and Chris actually talked about it after the season was over last year, just about this summer coming in and really working. I told him this summer, I would make sure that whenever I was working out, he was with me, and we was going to get the job done this summer. And, we also had guys that like James and Josh and, KO that worked out with us. But for the most part, me and Chris really talked about it, and we really, our big emphasis was getting in the gym, by any means. Whether it was 2 times a day, 3 times a day, whether it was, working out with a weight vest on or, working out with extra shirts on, anything to give us, a better advantage as far as coming into the season.
And your thumb is good now?
Yeah, my thumb is perfect, back to normal.
Okay, because I ask you about 2K every time I see you, and I don't know if that affected your 2K game at all.
No. My 2K game was I had a cast on, matter of fact, and I played Josh in 2K, and the cast actually covered my whole thumb, and I still beat him by like 20 points.
Phenomenal game, actually. It was a
what team were
phenomenal
you?
performance.
I played with the Pacers, and I think he had John Wall and the Wizards. So if you want to ask him about that, I'm sure he can explain.
Well, didn't he go to the same school as John Wall?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
That's his man's.
All right, cool. Didn't represent him too well. All right, awesome. Well,
Yeah, just quickly before we send it to break, and I'll send you guys away. I know you want to get on out of here. Mike, you addressed the depth of the team a few minutes ago, and you said, you want that core five to be able to work with and that chemistry. Do you find it difficult to find chemistry with these guys if you go 10 deep to find a real chemistry on the floor with certain guys?
I don't find it difficult to find chemistry because I feel like we're a close-knit team.
Okay.
But it's harder to actually find chemistry because it's like for our last exhibition game, the starting five was, I think, was me, James, Chris, Joe, and Jamel. So, if I'm out there with those guys for 25 to 30 minutes a game, then it's easy for us to build chemistry and know where each other is going to be. But it's kind of hard because even in practice, like I don't play with Cameron Johnson every day on my team. I don't play with Deron every day on my team. So it's kind of hard to actually build like team chemistry as far as playing with them and knowing where they're going to be. And for a guy like Deron, he brings a lot of energy. He's going to talk, so I know if I'm talking, he's going to talk, and he's going to let me know where he's at. And then for a guy like Slim, he doesn't talk as much, so I might have to have my head more on a swivel just to know where he's at and know what's going on around me.
All right, good. And Chris, you want to talk about that too, about the depth of your team, and maybe going off of what Mike said about the chemistry and how well you guys are building it so far this season.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think like Mike said, it's early in the season, and with time and with more games, I think it'll build. But we really are a close-knit team. I mean, we all hang out together, so I'm really not too worried about the chemistry part.
All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate you joining the show here. Yeah. Obviously, it was good of you guys to take the time out of your day to come down here and join us. So
no problem.
Yeah, Mike and Chris, and so Mike Young, Chris Jones, thanks so much for joining us here on our Pitt Basketball season preview special here on WPTS Radio. When we come back from break, we're going to have James Robinson and Josh Newkirk, this Panther team's point guards, here for you after the break. So stay tuned. Back inside the lobby of the Petersen Events Center, I am Kevin Wheeler, joined by my co-host here, Jesse Irwin, on your Pitt Basketball season preview special here, special programming here on WPTS Radio. Now, after we were just joined a few minutes ago by Chris Jones and Mike Young, who have stepped onto the mics now are James Robinson and Josh Newkirk. Guys, obviously 2 point guards on this Panther basketball team. How you guys doing tonight?
Good. Thanks for having us.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem, guys.
You guys are like campus. You're celebrities. I mean, everybody knows you, especially you. I mean, seriously. I don't know if you're probably used to it by now, but that's you're a big man on campus.
Nah, not really. Just the people I see in class. That's all it is.
You must take a lot of classes then.
Yeah, I try to get my classwork in.
All right, guys, so start the questions off for you here. I'm going to start it off. I'm going to go to Josh. Josh, something that I noticed last year after Deron went down, you were a guy that I thought really stepped in and filled the void. You really picked up the slack coming off the bench for this Panther team. And I covered the ACC tournament, and that was, a time where I thought you played some of your best basketball. You shot the ball extremely well at the end of last year. And then in the open floor, you're one of the most dynamic players on this team. Coming into this season, I guess you could still call yourself the backup point guard, if you want to put air quotes around that, to James over here. But what do you feel you bring to this team this year, and now that you've come out of your freshman year, you're coming into your second year here in collegiate basketball?
I just want to come off the bench, do what's needed, do what's asked of me, come in, lead the team, get assists, get in the lane, penetrate, and just get open shots for my teammates. So that's one of the main things I've been working on. I've been working a lot in the off season, just working on my weaknesses and just strengthening my strengths. So I just want to come in this year and have a good year.
You guys are like polar opposites almost. I mean, you're aggressive. You drive to the basket. You're Mr. Consistent. I mean, how does Coach Dixon work with two completely different point guards?
I think he does a really good job working with us, and he kind of makes it fun when he puts us out there together because I kind of know what Josh is going to do. Josh knows what I'm going to do. So, when we're out there, we're looking for each other. And then when Josh is in the game, I'm on the sideline, encouraging him, really cheering for him. And I know when I'm in, he's doing the same for me. So it makes it for, a really, really good experience.
What do you guys do? I mean, do you learn from each other a lot? Just on obviously your styles of play influence each other, but is there something in particular you each take from each other's games?
Yeah, of course. James has a high IQ, so I just learned a lot from him. I learned like how the defenses I play, how offense, like where to pick my spot set on the offensive end. So I learned a lot from him.
Yeah, definitely. Just how Josh, he changes speeds really well, and obviously he's super fast, super athletic. So it makes it tough on me in practice because I have to check him every day. But just how he gets in the lane, he has really good vision. So just things like that is just something I try to implement in my game too.
Now, do you guys like playing alongside each other on the floor? Is that more fun for you than being the point guard on the floor at the time, the floor general, at times on the floor for this Panther team? Do you like playing together more?
Yeah, of course. It gives us two different ways we can play. I can bring the ball up and be more of a facilitator and look for James, and sometimes he could be the facilitator and I can be on the wings and look to score more. So it definitely gives us an advantage on the offensive end and on defense.
Yeah, definitely. Just to piggyback on what Josh said, I think on the defensive end it gives us another element we can pick up and really pressure the ball out front, and that help us get easy buckets on the other end. Where Josh, he really excels in transition, and get some highlight plays at the rim.
I'm going to go off the book for 1 second. So you're the first player to commit via Twitter to Pitt. Did you know that?
Nah, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that? Greg Hotchkiss knew. And then you also, do you still watch Through the Fire before every game?
Nah. I left the DVD at home.
But Sebastian Telfair, I mean, is that your guy? Why did you like that so much?
I just like that movie a lot because just the inspiration behind it. And so growing up, Sebastian Telfair was a good player, so I looked up to him. In middle school, I actually was number 31, so it was just motivational for me.
Wow. Is that why you're 13 now? You switched the 3 into 1?
Oh, nah,
Didn't even do it. Again, Greg Hotchkiss knew that one. That's awesome. So, third in the nation in assist to turnover ratio. I mean, you can take this question, but I mean that's a big.
Yeah, no, James, like that's something me and Jesse were talking about before the program here. Third in the nation last year in assist to turnover ratio. You're seen as a type of guy that's a little more conservative, a point guard, just run the offense type of guy. Is that kind of your style of play? Do you like playing that way, or is that just a product of the system that the coach has you guys playing in?
I think a little bit of both. Obviously, I don't think any guard wants to be known for turning the ball over. And I think my teammates do a really good job of getting open. The coaches put us in, positions to succeed. So, with my teammates getting open, guys setting good screens, it kind of makes the pass even that much easier for me. And, just my job to, find the open guys so they can make the next best play.
It's like every year you're here, I mean, your leadership role increases a ton. Is that something you're pretty much just used to at this point, or did you last year pretty much solidify that you were a leader on this team, and with Cam out now, I mean, it's going to play a huge role in the success of this team?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm definitely one of the guys that have been here for one of the longer periods of time. So it's definitely going to be on me to really talk a lot more this year, be more vocal. But then again, I think we have a lot of guys that had a lot of in-game experience last year, and we can all collectively come together and use that experience that we got last year to have a really successful season this year.
I'm going to ask you guys both. I asked Chris and Mike before, about the conversation after the Philly game in the locker room. What are you guys' take on that? What do you guys think you need to improve on? The few things that are most important to improve on, I should say, earlier on in this season, going through exhibition games and these non-conference schedule that you're going to play over the next few weeks.
Definitely. We played two really good teams at exhibition, but I think there's stuff that we can take, both positive and negatives from the two exhibition games. Obviously, we want to strengthen what we did wrong, and I think we had a really good week at practice so far. So we got to come in tomorrow, get better, and get ready for Friday's game.
Just like James said, we had a little mistakes on defense that we just been working on lately and this week. So, I mean, we just been correcting things, getting better. It was the first 2 exhibition games. We now we know what we need to learn from. So we just gonna keep working from there.
James, you won 2 FIBA gold medals. What was your favorite part of those trips? Was it the food? Was it the women? What was it?
I think just just the experience of obviously representing the country. But I think from a basketball standpoint, I was able to kind of get a head start of what a college practice would be like. Thanks to Coach Donovan and the rest of the staff. They really ran the team as if it was a college team. So by the time the first practice came here at Pitt, I kind of already experienced what a college practice would be like, especially in how long it is. We had some pretty long practices out there with USA, so it was a really good experience for me, and it was a lot of fun too, and I enjoyed it.
While I've got you here, I got to ask, how do you compare and contrast Coach Dixon and Coach Donovan?
I think they're really similar, really. They're both really intense. They both really emphasize defense, and then off the court they're both pretty laid back. They're always studying film too. I think Coach Donovan, after every game he would just sit there and watch the film after film after film, and Coach Dixon's here all night watching film, trying to get us ready. So that's just comes with being a really good coach. That's how you build successful programs. So they're both really good coaches, and I'm thankful to have played with both.
Guys, I'm interested to ask you now. A lot of outside people can speculate about what you guys do on the floor, but I'm just going to come out and ask the 2 of you individually. Josh, I'll start with you. What's something that you think that you do better than James on the basketball court?
I have to say just being athletic and playing above the rim.
Let's hear this one.
James, what do you do better than Josh on the basketball floor?
Better than Josh? I don't know. I think maybe use my body a little bit better.
Okay.
I think when I can get in the lane, I can kind of use my strength a little bit. So he can have the athleticism.
What about off the court?
Off the court?
I mean, obviously, Josh doesn't have a
great
2K,
2K,
according to Chris over here.
I'm probably not the best in 2K either. I think right now, my Madden skills are probably a little bit better.
Yeah, he probably got to get better. I never played football, so yeah, he got that.
James, you were just talking about, using your body in the lane, being able to penetrate efficiently. Is that something that you're looking to do a little bit more this year? It's not something that you're, typically, seen doing a lot on the court over your first 2 seasons at least. Is that something you're trying to do again this year?
Yeah, definitely. I think we put in a lot of plays for Josh and I to really turn the corner and get in the lane and make plays. So I think that's one thing that coach really emphasized, getting in the lane. Obviously if our shot is there, he wants us to take it and then just find an open guy. And I think that will really help our team this year.
Josh, is there one player that you try to emulate? I mean, is John Wall one of those guys? Which players do you look at and you say, all right, I'm going to try that move out, or I'm going to try approaching it the way they do?
I guess you can't say John Wall because I grew up watching him from Raleigh, North Carolina. So, I mean, you can't say him. And I like Chris Paul as well. I like his craftiness, the way he gets in the lane. And, those 2 players.
Cool. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us here on our preview special. We'll let you guys go. I know we've been keeping you around for a little longer than expected, so we'll send it to break and get you guys on out of here. So thank you, everybody that's listening at home, for listening to WPTS Radio's Pitt Basketball season preview special here from the Pete Lobby. Stay tuned, and Jesse and I will be back in just a moment to wrap this up. Welcome back inside the lobby of the Petersen Events Center here. I'm Kevin Wheeler, joined alongside my co-host here, Jesse Irwin. You're joining us in our Pitt Basketball season preview special. We're going a little bit over time here on WPTS Pittsburgh. But Jesse, awesome programming we just had. Had a few players come out as guests here for us tonight. Chris Jones and Mike Young joined us a little bit earlier in the program, and just a few moments ago, James Robinson and Josh Newkirk, the point guards on this team, were able to join us as well. Great experience being able to interview these guys in a season preview special for the fans here tonight.
And I love the human interest side of stuff, the off-court stuff. So
Absolutely.
to be able to talk to them about that kind of stuff, I have so much fun with it. And I like how we were able to incorporate questions that really do matter, because this season is coming up on us very quickly, and they're going to have to be ready for it on the defensive side of the ball specifically. But it's fun. The more interaction that they have with the fans, either through media or through whatever it may
Student
be.
radio.
Through student radio. It's great, because it creates this relationship between the student body, between the city of Pittsburgh and the team. And I think that's, at the end of the day, in a city like Pittsburgh without an NBA team, this is the NBA team. And I think that's really important to have here. And I think this preview show did a great job of that. And I'm looking forward to doing the same thing next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And we learned a lot from them. And, you have to respect the fact that they didn't let things leave the locker room. Especially we asked every single one of them about the locker room conversation after the Philadelphia exhibition game when Coach Jamie Dixon really got on them about their defensive effort. So you got to respect that. But at the same time, you can see that each and every one of these guys knows that defensive effort is extremely important for this team's success in the future.
And you saw the look on Mike's face. He's serious when it comes to this stuff. And, he wants to take that shot. He wants to seriously do well on defense. And I think that look right there is something I'm going to remember for a long time. Because when he's dominating in the paint this year against the ACC, I'm going to think of that stare. Because he means business. Yeah, I think it shows a lot in all these guys. And like you're saying, to keep stuff in the locker room that Coach Dixon's saying, they're going to show it. They're not going to tell us through words. They're going to tell us through play. And I'm excited to see that happen.
Yeah, definitely excited to see the maturation process. And one of the most interesting things about the conversation we had with the guys is, going back to Mike once again, after you asked him, Jesse, who's going to take that shot, he just looked at us straight in the eye and said, I'm taking the shot. And that's something that you want to see. But at the same time, in reference to Chris, he was like, hey, all summer we were here every day. I made sure everybody was here. I made sure I was doing everything I could possibly do to make myself just that little bit better. And I think that's the mentality that this team needs to have if they're going to play well in this ACC conference, because it's one of the best in the country.
I think it's the best in the country. And I mean that. And seeing what Chris was saying, like you're saying, making sure everyone's there, that shows that he's becoming more and more of a leader. And the fact that he'll be on the floor and able to do it at the same time is only going to increase his role with the entire roster. So he can work with guys like Ryan Luther, like Cam Johnson, like these guys who are going to play a pivotal role in the Panthers' future. So to see him mean business, to see Mike mean business, and to see the 2 point guards that everyone loves mean business is a very good sign for Panther fans.
Yeah, Jesse, I can say that, as a person who's covering this Pitt basketball team all year for WPTS Radio, I'm extremely excited to see what this team has in store for us. A little bit of a different look. This team doesn't really have that significant scorer that can really take over a game, or that you would want that person to take the last shot. I guess tonight we've learned that Mike is that guy. But, it's a little bit of a different look. In the past we've seen Lamar Patterson be that guy, Talib Zana be that guy. So, it's really interesting to see what this team's going to do down the stretch here.
But that's fun, right? You love that mystery of it, because Mike wants that shot, and if he's given it, he's going to take it. But if Coach Dixon's not giving it to Mike, which one of these guys is going to take it? We don't know. And the only way to find out is to keep watching these guys, because they're going to keep growing throughout the season, and the more confident they are, and they're going to want to take that shot. And it'll be interesting to see how all of that pans out.
Yeah, absolutely, Jesse. So that's going to wrap up our Pitt basketball season preview special here live from the lobby of the Petersen Events Center. Jesse, it's been a heck of an event here tonight, and it was really a pleasure to be joined by you here tonight, and as well as a bunch of Pitt basketball players as our guests tonight.
Oh, I've got goosebumps. This is great.
Well, that might be just because it's freezing in here.
It is also freezing in here, but this is great. This is really you can't ask for a better place to have a season preview. The front of the stadium, we nailed it.
Yeah, we nailed it. We nailed it. Don't be modest about it. So, all right, that's going to wrap it up here for our Pitt basketball season preview special here on this Wednesday night. Special sports programming here on WPTS Radio. Signing off for Jesse Irwin, I am Kevin Wheeler. Thank you so much for listening. Progressive music is next.